Now today I want us to talk about the document management system in SAP, but specifically relating to SAP plant maintenance. But before we do that, I would want us to just have a quick explanation of what I mean by this. Now in SAP, there are various methods that you can use to attach documents to technical objects in terms of plant maintenance. So there is one of the methods that we use, which is called the generic object services. Now this is normally attached to maybe the notifications or the work orders. We are going to see how that is done. Okay, so it's I like to call it like a quick link. Okay, so that one would automatically take you to your file on your system where you can quickly attach it. Now this is done locally. It attaches your document locally to the object, to the technical object. So it doesn't do it in the DMS. Okay, now the second method which I would also want us to look at today, which is basically why we are having this video, is the DMS. And the DMS stands for the document management system. Okay, so the document management system, we are going to be doing it via what is called the documents info records. Okay, the document info records. So there are various steps that we could use to do this in terms of the DMS. So the first thing we are going to do is to first create the document info records. Okay, and when we are done with that, we'll then link it to an object. Okay, link it to an object via the objects link tab. Now after you've linked it to the object, would also attach the file, okay, which is the original file, in the original tab, and then the next is to use the check in original. Okay, so that's like a field. All right, so to use the check in original to store it in the content server. So basically the steps that we're going to use in creating this DMS via the document info records. Okay, well, one thing I want us to know here is whether you're using the generic object service or you're using the document info records, both are different ways at which documents are attached to objects, right? But I think the difference between these two is that for the document info records, there are more capabilities that the document info records can offer you compared to the generic object services. So for instance, for the generic object service, is basically the fastest way to attach documents to your object. So I call it the quick links because it would just quickly take you to your local file, okay, on your system, and then it gets attached. So no need for you to start creating a document info records. All right, but the limitation that this generic object service has is no version control. Now what do I mean by version control? There are certain times that some of our documents have to be reviewed. So I'll give you an instance. Let's say we have a document that is normally reviewed every year, maybe an engineering drawing. So a new process was brought in, and then there was a need to review that engineering drawing to attach the new process or to indicate the new process that was being brought in. Now you would see that the first engineering drawing that was done could maybe be a version 1 of that document. So we would obviously have a version 2, which is the revised version. All right. Now the thing is, if you have such versions, it will be very difficult to control that when you're using the generic object service, because it doesn't have that functionality to accommodate the version control. Okay, so you're only limited to quick attachments, but when it comes to versions, you can't be able to do that. And then also there are some of these documents that you might want to save in hierarchy. So a document might be a superior document to another document, or a subordinate document to another document. Now the generic object service does not permit have that functionality, and when it comes to tracking those documents, it will be totally difficult for the generic object service. Why? Because you're not creating these records on the system. You're not creating a document info record. So the system has no record of those documents on the system. You're just attaching them. All right. So it's majorly best for when you are temporarily attaching documents. All right. But not when you want to create a record of those documents on the system. So for the DMS is normally integrated with the SAP plant maintenance module. Okay, so it has an integration with SAP PM. All right, and it supports those version controls. You can also set status for those documents. So if a document is archived, you can indicate that document is archived. If it's rejected, if it's active, you can be able to identify that this is done on the system. And you can create this for different document type. All right, if you're creating for manuals, you're creating for SOPs, your standard of operations, you can do that, which is something that the generic object service does not offer. All right, so basically, when you're working in a type of organization that is very structured, like the oil and gas manufacturing, the DMS is always the better choice, because it helps you to properly manage your document and make better decisions on your document, right? So we're going to go straight into the system to know how this is done, and we'll be doing this on the Fury, but I just want to show us we just want to quickly see how this generic object service looks like. So I already have a work order that is opened on the system on my GUI. Okay, so I want to show you how to go about the generic object services. All right, so how do I do something like that? Now let's assume that this is the work order that I have opened. There is always this very small icon at your left hand side at the top, and this is where you can make your quick attachment. So this is called the services for objects, like we said on the slide. So when I drop this down, this is how it looks like. I'm going to select my maintenance order because that is where I want to make my attachment on. I'll double click this, and then we have the crate. So on the crate, it shows us different ways that we can make attachment. Are you attaching an external URL, or you're creating an attachment of a document? So when I click create an attachment, it gives me a room to be able to access my local files by clicking at this button. So here you can access your local files and click on open to attach it on this particular object, which is this work order. Now the same thing can be done on notifications as well. So it's important for us to note that for this document attachment, okay, this is not only for plant maintenance. Of course, across the modules, there are certain times that we have documents, maybe service entry sheets that we need to attach to most of our requests are services, so it's not only relegated to plant maintenance, but we're only going to be looking at how this is done on plant maintenance. Now, having looked at the services for objects, I want us to go straight to the DMS system on the Fury. So we're going to navigate to that. So I have my Fury opened already, and I'm going to use the application called the create document to carry out this transaction. So on the Fury, you would have to navigate to the create document application, and I'm going to click this to open it up. So this is how the interface looks like for the Fury. Basically the same interface that we have on our GUI. So let me see if I can navigate this on the GUI and show us how it looks like. So we have the CV01N. Okay, so let's create the document info records first. Oh, sorry. Let me use this. So you can see that it's almost the same. It's just that the interface is a little bit different. But then we have the same stuffs that are represented on it. This is how it looks like on the GUI, and on the Fury, this is what we have. But I think I'll just stick to my Fury. And so at this point, you would have to select the document type. Now for SAP DMS, it has different document types. The reason why we have this is to help us to know the type of documents that we are creating. So when I click on this button here, I can have an overview of the different document types so for plant maintenance, I want to create a document for engineering design drawing. Okay, so all of these documents type are across the different modules that we have. So you would have to select the kind of documents, okay, if it's say entry sheets and any kind of document that you're actually creating. But for me, I want to create an engineering design drawing. So I'm going to double click this and it comes here. Now I'm going to give it a document part number, okay? Now the document part number and the version is just based on if the document you are segregating document per parts. Okay, so there are some of the documents that have parts, sort of. All right, so let's say that my document part number is 004. Is what I want to use. And document version, let me say this is a version 1. Okay, a version 5. All right, of my document, for instance. So I'm going to click enter at this point. Now it takes me to this place. Now this is how the screen looks like in the next step. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is to describe my document. So I'm going to say engineering drawing for let's look for something. So let's just say for AHU. Okay, so here we have the document status. So your document status, it gives you different status actually, but because this is active, we are going to leave it as work request. But when you open up this, we have other status. If the document is archived, we would change the document status to archive. If it's rejected, we'll change it to rejected. So this is basically a way how we can manage the status of our documents. Okay, so I would obviously leave it as work request and we progress. Now at our right hand side, you can see a red button over here, which is indicating that this is not released. Okay, so we'll talk about that. And what else can we do here? Now I'm going to go all the way down here and I am going to attach the original. Now what does it mean to create original? At this point, this is where your attachment is done. So if you're saying that you are creating a document for basic data engineering design and drawing, okay, it means that you have to attach the drawing, the original document. So to do this, you'd click on this button here. So I'll put a log field. Or what do I put here? I just put documents, just put something here. Okay, and I click continue. So here tells me the application, but I'm not going to put anything here until I make my attachment. Now, the type of attachment I'm going to make here will determine what application is going to be. So what is my application talking about? If the document I'm attaching is a PPT, automatically my application would be a PPT. If it's a PDF, my application becomes a PDF. Okay, so here we have various applications here, but this is basis. This is doc. You have HTML, a lot of applications here, MP4, MP3. Okay, so I'm just going to attach a document. I would click on this point. Alright, so this application wants to upload a file to the SAP system, and I say okay. Alright, so at this point I can just look for something that I would want to. So let's say that we are attaching this flux structure. Let's just say that this is the document that we are attaching and it's in a PDF. So I'll click on upload. Okay, so it would upload it, and you can see that the application has automatically populated to PDF. Okay, so I can give it a description: engineering drawing for AHU1. Okay, so I'll click on this enter here. Okay, now at this point we have our original already attached over here. So if you want to see it, you can navigate to originals. So this is the document that I have attached. Okay, so also another thing that we can do here, we have something called the object links. Now, what is the object links? You know, the way we navigated to the maintenance work order on the GUI, and we are able to use the service object to do like a quick attachment, right? Now, the reason of having these object links is to automatically populate these objects. For instance, we have a lot of objects here, but I'll just navigate to functional locations. So let me just say functional locations, for instance. So I want to use the functional location object link. When I click this object link here, all right, I'm able to attach a functional location. So I want to attach a functional location. So I'm going to find a functional location. So let's say I want to use this AHU. All right, I click on enter. Now what this does is this. When I open up this functional location, right, this document here will be automatically attached to this AHU. What does this mean? When we create a maintenance order for this functional location, for instance, okay, because this document is attached to this functional location, we'll still be able to access that document via it. So what we did on the GUI, where we had to go through the service for objects, was because there was no document attached. So let me say that work order was created under this functional location, right? Automatically would have this document attached to this functional location. Why? Because we've linked it to an object. The same thing, you can link it to as many objects as you want. So I could decide I want to link it to all the AHUs that are available. So maybe it's the drawing for the whole AHU. Okay, so I could link it to this AHU. Okay, and for line 12 and line 15. Alright, so I have it linked, and I can also link it to an equipment. Maybe if there was an equipment that is also using this drawing, I can link it. So I can also link it to a maintenance order, a maintenance notification, a measuring point, a material master. So these are object links that I can be able to link it to. All right, and linking this means that by the time I open up these objects, I should see this attached. So I'm going to save this before we continue. So let me just navigate to, let's navigate to the change. So copy this. So I want to navigate to this change on the GUI. And the reason why I'm doing this is because of an issue that I'm currently having on this Fury. On this Fury for change documents. So let's navigate this here real quick. So I'm going to open this up. Alright, I'll change this. I think this was for 6, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so we can just do something like this. So this is it. So I have it opened here. Okay, so what we can do here, I would want us to pay attention to these indicators. Now, personally, these indicators are helping you to know, I think I should use the word, the status of these documents. So for instance, if we had a hierarchy for these documents, it would be indicated here in green. If we had a deletion flag, it would be indicated here in green. So let me assume that I want to delete this document, okay? So I'm going to click on this document and I'll click on change deletion indication. So when I click it, okay, so I can't be able to, so if I already deleted this document, all right, this is going to change to green, okay, but we can't be able to delete that document at this point because we already have an SAP object assigned to it. But if there was no SAP object assigned to this, I think we did the assignment on the functional location. So let's just go here. So if we didn't have this object link assigned already, we can easily delete this. Okay, but let me just do something here so I can show you the status that I mean. So I'm just going to delete this. Let me delete this and delete this as well. So let me show you how this works. Alright, so I'm going to set it on deletion, change deletion indicator. Oh, let me just quickly save. Alright, so I'm going to set this. So it says document is marked for deletion. Now look at what happened. At this point, this blue mark here turned to a green. That means this exists, and you can see that we have the exists indicated there. All right, and when I put my cursor here, it says does not exist, meaning that this document does not have a structure. So if I cancel my deletion here, change deletion, you see it goes back to blue. So this means that you can only delete a document if you have not attached an object link to it. The moment you have an object link attached to it, it becomes impossible to delete your document. So I want us to take note of that. Okay, so the only time you can delete the document is if you do not have the object links attached to them. All right, I want to show us something. Now there's some of these documents that used to have like a superior document. So I'm going to give you an instance where you can use this superior document. It's very possible to build a structure for your document, and I'm going to give you an instance where you can do that. Let's say you have a pump, right, and that particular pump, the manual that you have is for the maintenance of that pump. Okay, so that particular document becomes the superior document. Okay, but maybe you also have other documents that talks about, it's still linked to the pump anyway, but then we now have documents like exploded diagram, maybe the pump lubrication charts, motor, the data sheets for the motor, panel wiring diagrams. So you have a pump maintenance manual. Okay, that becomes the parent document. But when you start having maybe manuals now talking about the lubrication, manuals talking about the electric motor, those could be the children's subordinate documents. Before you attach these documents, you have to make sure that it's already created on the system, right? So what I'm going to do is this. I am going to save this, and I am going to create another document. Okay, so let's create this one and call it document part 5, and still call it version was it version 2 we called that? I think so. So I'll click on enter. Then I would now say maintenance manual. Of course, you know that the maintenance manuals are different from engineering drawing. Okay, so the engineering drawing can be the subordinates, which are the children, right? But then we have the maintenance manual as the parent for AHU. And then, then you come down here as usual, and then you attach the documents. Click here. Attach it over here if you have the documents. You could attach the documents here and click this. Okay, so I'm going to, so we have the originals. If you click on the originals, so this is the documents. You're going to wait a little bit to come up. So this is the documents here, right? Now we have the object links. So like I said, you could link it. So I'm going to link it to the same AHU functional location, because those are the objects I want it to pop up on. So for me, I prefer attaching it to a functional location because I don't like attaching it to notification, because you'd obviously attach a functional location to your notifications or work orders. When you attach it to a notification, how do you know that the notification will not be created on this particular functional location? So that's why I like attaching them on the functional location of the equipment. So I'm going to put this one, and then I put the second one. Okay. I'll put the second one and I'll click enter. Okay, so I've attached the object links already. So here I can just go ahead to save my documents. So I'm going to save this. So what I'm going to do now is to open up this other one that I created before. No. This is create. Let me go back. So I'm going to open the parent. This is cancel this. Yes. So I want to navigate to the change. Okay, click enter. I think we have that wrong. So this is the child document, okay? The child document, which is the subordinate document. So I'm going to open this. So because I want to create a parent-child relationship, okay, my superior document, which is the parent, is going to be the maintenance manual we just created, right? So I'm going to click here to access it. So I'll put this here. All right, now this is the maintenance manual for AHU, okay, which is the parent. So I'll double click on it and then it appears here. Okay, so I can then save. So I'm going to check that status to see what happens. Now, prior to now, this hierarchy here didn't have this green indicator. It had this indicator. But now a hierarchy already exists because we now have a parent-child relationship, okay? So how can we be able to see this displayed on the system? So here we have two icons here. This one is to show you the hierarchy, while this is to show you the product structure. So I like using the product structure because product structure gives you it in terms of the nodes and the structure, while this will give you in terms of a list format. But let's look at this. When I click on it, you can see that it gives me in terms of a list format, okay? So it gives me in terms of a list format, but when I want to check the product structure, I can always go through this place here. And when I click on it, so it arranges it in form of a structure for me. So if I drop this node down, I have superior document. When I expand this node, I want to see what is the superior document or what is the parent document to that child document. So when I expand this node, I have the maintenance manual for AHU, okay? When I expand this node further, I would have the subordinate document. So if I want to see the subordinate document, which is the child, when I expand it, you can see it tells me that 5 is the subordinate. Also, you can see that we have object links. So if I also want to check the object link, I can still click on this, okay? The object link was a functional location. Which functional location? When I click on this and this. So I want to show us how these object links are working. So I'm going to display this one, this functional location on the Fury. So I'm going to display it to see how it works. So I'm going to click on this change technical objects. So I want to see this, no, not this. I want to see 1478 CL. Let's check what we have here. AH and 12. So I'll just copy this. Okay, and click continue. So I want to see now, if you look at this technical object, it's showing us that one document has been attached here. Okay, but then the question is, how was the document attached? Now, this document is attached here because we have had an object link. Okay, we had an object link functional location to these documents. So that's why we have it. So the same thing with the line 15, okay? If we want to open it up as well, we can also open it up and still see it. Okay, we can still see the documents that have been attached. So this is the one document that has been attached on it. This is basically the product structure for this, and if you want to print it out, you can be able to print as well. When we click on this icon here, I can still be able to open up those attachments. At this point, we have original.